Today's course takes us to Scotland for BRAEk-fast Crits and Grits, a course with a mix of heavy climbs, steep descents, and very little recovery. If you want to have something left for the final Sgurr climb, you're going to need a plan. Let's break down each segment so you know where the race will be won and lost, as well as where to use your power-ups and even best bike choice. The route is 20.8 kilometers long with 211 meters of climbing, plus a 1.3 kilometer lead-in that kicks you in the teeth before you settle in. It's got everything: the Sgurr Summit South KOM on both ends, Glasgow's Clyde Kicker and Champion Sprint in the middle, 4 laps of breakaway Brae reverse, and then a final drag to the finish. Think of it as survival intervals stacked back to back. Your pacing and positioning will make or break your day. As you take a left out of the pens, you'll pick up your first power up before taking a second left leading to the Sgurr Summit South. The best approach is to tail gun into the steep 8% ramp, but positioning could be difficult because Zwift races always start full gas. As you continue climbing, the gradient will briefly ease, allowing for riders to briefly catch their breath or use this draft to move forward in the group before a second kick that hits over 7%. The crest of the climb is just before the KOM banner, but don't take your legs off the pedals until you pass through the banner and hit the steeper gradients. That is, unless you're leading the pack, from which dialing it back and regrouping is recommended. The gravel descent around the bend is quite steep and winding, meaning that the front should regroup pretty easily. However, closing a gap to the group ahead will be difficult because of the gravel's increased rolling resistance, something you'll also recognize from Watobio's jungle loop. This is also an extremely important recovery point because after this gravel stretch, riders will take a right into a false flat climb that's draftable at just above 3%, but the front group could use this as an opportunity to push ahead and end the day of riders that were dropped on Sgurr. You'll then approach the next section of the race in downtown Glasgow. This will be from a left-hand turn and quickly approach the Clyde Kicker's first slope. Tail gunning the first draftable portion will allow you to save your legs for the push over the second 9% gradient, where Zwifters always attack with full force. This will then roll you your third power-up of the race and a quick recovery chance thereafter. Seasoned Zwifters will also use the rolling steps to recover through proper pack positioning. You'll then quickly experience another gradient change before the champion sprint arrives. It's fast, short, flat, and explosive. If this is a points race and you're going for the sprint, you'll want to make your move early before the 2 bends, but everybody else should continue monitoring for attacks before and after the sprint point as riders continue to burn power up. Kind reminder that this is the flattest section of the course, so save your matches. Taking a left back into outer Scotland, a downhill cobbled bridge signals that your rest is nearly over, winding riders towards the Loch loop banner and start pen. A long draftable drag through the 2 castle bridges will begin as you pass under the first bridge. The gradient itself rarely gets above 3%, but the peloton will again stretch here. Position yourself mid to front of the pack to avoid splits and push forward towards the end as the gradients slowly increase. As riders hit the flat approach to the banner, the stretch group will likely come back together because there's still 8 miles left in the race, and the steep downhill post banner means that anybody feeling good should save their matches for the castle corkscrew that's fast approaching. This post banner downhill will be your last proper recovery point of the race. It's long and gradual. As the castle corkscrew approaches in the distance, come off the pedals and allow yourself to move towards the back of the pack during the steeper terrain. The castle corkscrew will immediately hit you with gradients over 8%, so spin your legs up from the back of the group and carry that momentum forward into the punch. As always, do not ease until you're through the climb and back on the steep descent gradients that'll regroup field. Soft pedal or super tuck on these gradients as you enter the loop where you'll be for the next 4 kicks. Nearly half of your race takes place in this small loop, which features the decisive 6% breakaway Brae ramp in the middle. Short, violent, and repeated 4 times. The Brae segment itself is longer and less steep than the counterclockwise loop, and the gradient begins climbing as you begin riding through some barriers. Similar to previous climbs, riders should start in the draft near the back of the pack and begin moving forward once you pass the white house on the left side of the road. This is also where the KOM line appears. Soon you'll hit the 6% punch. If you start your kick in the red portion of the climb, you'll risk poor positioning on the flat top near the banner, forcing you to work extra hard to avoid being gapped on the descent. Do not soft pedal until you are through the banner and reach the steep gradients of breakaway Brae segment. The steep descent itself will keep the bunch together, but conversely, it will also make it difficult to bridge back to the front group post-descent, especially if the chase group is smaller than the peloton, so put in your work early on. Hang your right after the descent and prepare for another 6% kick in the middle of this bridge section. Spin up your legs before this kick and again, use the momentum to efficiently crest the punch and prepare to repeat those efforts 3 more times. All in all, the first 3 laps are survival. Stay near the back, surf the wheels, and use momentum on the ramp. For the final lap, however, positioning is everything. The group will hammer the kicker and string out. Things will also get confusing as you approach lapped riders before taking your left back towards the Castle Corkscrew. Once out of the Brae circuit, the Castle Corkscrew again bites hard with gradients over 8%. The front group should be nice and bunched after the Corkscrew descent because the group momentum will sweep up any flyers that have small gaps. At this point, only 2 miles remain in the race. Strong riders will likely make a late attack on this long draftable climb, and you will need to push at the steep segments that get above 4%. Group momentum is likely to slow near the top, so opportunists can grab a few seconds and work to create a gap before the Sgurr summit finish, especially since this dragging false flat won't end until the Loch loop banner comes in view. This will then be your last chance to roll a power up. Similar to when we approach this section out of the pens, the final push begins with a left turn at the roundabout with a slight false flat as you ride between these houses. Once you reach the KOM line, prepare to ramp up your effort as you pass through the cobbled barriers, allowing your momentum to move you forward in the group. Keep the gaps close and pass riders that blew up early by drafting the flatter midsection. From there, time your kick for the final ramp. Keep in mind that the crest isn't the end of the race, so if you're outpacing the pack, you will need to dig deep to prevent getting pipped at the line. This will also give you an opportunity to push past any riders that don't give it their all through the banner. With 10 power-up opportunities, you'll want to employ the strategy of using a power-up before the next banner approaches. What you will want to avoid is using a feather on the downhill or anvil on an uphill because it will make it more difficult to position in the pack. Also, if you would like to hold on to a feather for the final climb, that could give you a leg up on the competition, though any power up will do. Just remember that the ghost won't work within 400 meters of the finish line. Similar to many of these shorter stages, aero setups dominate. I recommend the Specialized Tarmac SL8 with the DT Swiss Arc 100 wheels, or the Cannondale Super 6 Evo as the close second. Aero trumps weight here because the climbs are draft heavy and the descents regather the fields quickly. And that's your breakdown for BRAEk-fast Crits and Grits, a course that will require you to make recovery and marginal gains wherever you can, and digging deep for that final Sgurr climb. If there's anything that I missed or anything you'd like to see in the future, let me know in the comments. And if you found this useful, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. I'll be racing this myself in the next 24 to 48 hours, so make sure to look for that as well. As always, ride hard, ride smart, and bonk beautifully.